Welcome back to Bard and Barrel, where we talk everything D&D. Usually on this channel, we are jumping into DM tips as we both enjoy DMing ourselves. But this video kind of springs out of interest as we have been breaking down player types. We discovered that if you want to be a better player, you need to develop yourself in all of these different areas. So if you flip on over to page 6 of the Dungeon Master's Guide, the DMG, the Holy DMG, you are going to find 7 player types. We'll just briefly touch on each one and things you can work on, or maybe ideas that you can do, ways to stretch yourself as a player.
Yes, I guess we'll start alphabetically, starting with acting. This is probably one of the most diverse subjects out of all of them because it plays into every aspect of D&D. Just being in character. And for some groups, I feel like that can kind of get lost in the wind, and sometimes we see ourselves playing a third-person game. We see ourselves as a token on a board, and we describe it as such. We forget that we are playing that character, that we are immersed in the story that the DM has created for us to be a part of. Don't always expect the DM to spoon feed you everything that you need for your character. Make the story your own as well.
I would advise you to start small. If this is somewhere where you struggle and you would love to get more into acting, I would say start small and start with what you know. Create yourself to begin with. Who are you? What are your values? How do you interact with people, right? And put yourself in that character and then expand out, right, as you go along. Play somebody a little more confident and cocky and total jerk to people. Play somebody who can't speak in multiple syllable words. I've played a character like that. That was very difficult to play. Somebody who couldn't speak, and he spoke about himself in the third person all the time, right? It became, and obviously you're not going to be perfect. I slipped up hundreds of times, but if you're right enough amount of times, then it becomes a memorable character for everybody, not just yourself.
Moving on to exploring. This is a player who absolutely loves the environment of your game. Okay, say you're in a city or you're in the forest, you're in, this world that they enjoy the surroundings. They engage with everything that you kind of throw in front of them.
As the player side of it goes, you should be genuinely curious inside of the campaign, right? And it doesn't even have to be about the main quest or the quests that you're on all the time, right? Maybe instead of going straight on the road all the way to the next town, just be creative. Come up with goals that you have in your head of like, yeah, I want to, I want to go collect some stuff that we can sell in the next town on our way over there. Try just exploring the world and finding out, what's around you and watch opportunities open up and then, jump in, take that on.
Yeah, and finding with that curiosity ways to interact with your environment that might be different than whatever situation is in front of you. Taking the environment, knowing what's around you during a conversation, or while you're in a combat scenario, is there something that you can use? Is there a tree that looks like it's about ready to fall over? Can you use that and leverage that into something where you can block the path of some of the enemies or something like that, where you're now changing the environment you're using based on what the DM has given you to interact better and be more creative with the scenarios that you're given. It gives you more dynamic, and it also shows the DM that you care about their world. DMs put a lot of work into their campaigns. There's a lot of work that goes into it, into the structure of their environment, both in politics, the social aspect, the people, the cities, the infrastructure. There's a lot of work that goes into building that world. And by exploring and being creative with the things that the DM shows you in their surrounding, makes it feel like you are genuinely engaged in their world and are interested in the content that they are creating for you as a player.
Along with exploring is instigating. Although the DM is the one who's prepped sessions and he's going to present you with decisions and things like that, it is your job to be instigating and making things happen, allowing the DM to unfold his story before you.
This is another way to show the DM as well that you are interested in their story, pushing along. And if you're in a sandbox campaign where the world is your oyster, be progressing towards something. Maybe it's not exactly what the DM had planned, but you are taking some sort of initiative to push along a narrative, whether it be a side quest or whether it be a story.
If you have focused in and you have a character and you have backstories and you have goals, then you should be trying to pursue those goals too, right? And so as a player, you need to know that you make up a lot of the story. Even though your DM is presenting to you options, opportunities, ideas, and different things that you can do, ultimately your goals and your ambitions and what you want to accomplish as a player, those goals, those ambitions, everything like that is going to make up the campaign. It's going to make up the story.
That's what we're looking for as players and as DMs, is take initiative, whatever that initiative may be. If it's starting the fight, if it's just progressing the storyline, or making good conversation, going back to the acting, make the first step in being the person really involved in your character.
Skyrim, great example, right? If you start the game up and you don't ever touch your controller or talk to anybody or do anything, then nothing's going to happen, right? And you're going to be bored and you're going to think, well, why isn't the game making me do things? That's not the DM's job. It is your job as the player to get out there, talk to people, start fights, explore, do things, figure things out, instigate, right? Talking on that, we can get right into fighting. You're going to vary on different levels of combat, I think, as a player. I would urge you to expand that palette, right? So if you're generally the barbarian, just swing my axe kind of a guy who's just going to attack, I would challenge you to play somebody else, play a bard. I'll tell you that as you expand out, you learn how to use more magic. You learn how to use different types of weapons, different types of feats that your character may have. Maybe you're a grappler monk who just throws stuff at people, right? Always improvising with your weapons and things like that. As you expand that out, you're going to become a lot more strategic as a player, right? It's not going to be so much, I run up and I swing and I hit. It's going to be like, okay, well, maybe, can I intimidate this person and drive this, aggro a whole group of enemies over, or drive them one way so that my rogue can sneak in the back or sneak around and have a clear path to the main villain, right? There's a lot of different options you have, and you need to think a little more strategically and think, be a little more mature about it than just running in and swinging that axe.
Yeah, and I think that there's a part of this as well that involves the rest of your party. Sometimes we can get lost in ourselves and our characters, and where we just know our characters. And so I think by knowing the rest of your party and what they're capable of, that the aggro strategy, is there a way that I could trip this guy to give the fighter who has more attacks than me or stronger attacks than me the opportunity to have advantage, to, do more damage? Is there something that I can do with this spell that might enhance the abilities of the rest of the players and make fighting more dynamic? Like you said, a little bit more strategic, and includes people other than yourselves. Maybe you do have a bard in the party and you know that they struggle to deal damage, but there's an opportunity that comes up somehow that you creatively make so that the bard has that moment to be the damage dealer somehow. I don't know. I don't have an exact scenario for that, but be creative with the fighting and how that comes about. You can also think of this as a social aspect too. Maybe fights don't always have to be actual combat, but verbal fighting, in the social aspect where, you're tit for tat, you're going toe to toe in like a debate with someone, thinking of it in all kind of aspects in that area.
I agree. I mean, it's important to know what other players can do so you can feed off of that, right? As a big barbarian, I may have a tiny little rogue that maybe instead of him running around and attacking the enemy, maybe I just grab him and I huck him onto the enemy's back and he just assassinates him in one go, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. And that plays into a little bit of the next point as well of optimizing. I cannot build a character without trying to make it the best of, its possible abilities. Now, not to say that I want to be the absolute best character in every party that I'm a part of. No, I consider myself a role filler. Whatever the party has, if we had a rogue, a barbarian, and a ranger, well, we're a little bit low on spellcasting. I'll play a wizard or a cleric or an artificer or something of that sort, druid, to kind of optimize the party and make it so that I also have a role that I'm not stepping on anyone else's feet, so that I have my own section of limelight that doesn't take away or extract from other characters as well.
We're not saying essentially that you need to love building your characters. You need to love spending hours upon hours in the character builder and maxing, coming up with 10 or 12 different outcomes all the way up to level 20. Looking at you, Riley. But more than anything, what I would say would be know what your character can do.
If you don't know what your character is capable of, if you don't know your character's backstory, if you don't know what items your character has, it makes it really hard to interact with the DM's world. It makes it really hard to doubt scenarios. It makes it really hard to fight well with the rest of your compatriots because you're lackluster, because you haven't read your character out fully. It's really hard to problem solve because you have no clue what's in your inventory. You don't know if you have a rope to climb down the cliff face. Knowing your character really does optimize what the party is capable of, and allows as well your party to know what you're capable of and to help you.
Even during combat, when there's stuff going on around me that I'm not super involved in, I'm usually skimming through my character, right? I'm not on my phone looking at memes or YouTube or videos and stuff like that. I'm usually like just glancing over my character. Okay, what can I do? Okay, what's this ability again? Okay, and just refreshing what I have, because a lot of times, especially if you don't play with encumbrance, you might be tossing a bunch of things in your backpack that you forget you completely had, right? And now, oh wait, if you know your player, you know what's on you, you know who you are. It's going to make your player experience a lot better because you're going to be able to shine.
Yeah, and if you're really, really interested in super optimized characters for very specific builds, go check out D4 Deep Dive. He makes a lot of really good content of specific characters, very, very specific characters doing very specific things that are super optimized, literally to the fullest to accomplish that thing. Go check out his videos. He's got a lot of good content there. But moving along to the next one here, problem solving.
It's interesting. I mean, if you look at problem solving, right, and even creative problem solving, it's just a lot of trial and error sometimes. But if you look at like Lord of the Rings, right, when they all get ready, they're gonna take the ring. They try to cross up in the mountains. I'm gonna slaughter this, and Riley, you can correct me on all my falsehoods, but they try to pass through the mountains. Doesn't work out, even though Legolas is just chilling, walking on top of the snow like nothing, but everybody else super hardcore struggle. So instead, we can't go over, so let's go under. So they decide Mines Mori instead, right? As a problem solver, like especially for riddles, puzzles, things like that, you just got to try stuff. That's what your DM wants. And a lot of times, and there are a lot of DMs out there that will do this, is they will come up with a problem without a solution. They want to see what the players will give them. So keep trying different things, and eventually the problem is going to get solved.
Yeah, and that is great advice. Being able to just put yourself out there, try something new. If the DM says that doesn't work, then move on to something new. Try being a little bit extravagant at times. Once again, use your environment and make it a different solution than what you maybe think originally it's supposed to be solved, and hopefully your DM will work with you. Rule of cool will kind of come into play, and it'll make for some fun storytelling. Which, of course, is our last, but not least, seventh area as players that we need to focus on is our storytelling. once again, I think this plays in very well to our acting. This allows us to contribute to the narrative. Okay, exploring it probably goes into that, and instigating as well. Making sure that you are participating in the game. I mean, we are here to collaboratively storytell. The DM has come up with a world that you as players are there to participate and engage in. And together you are creating this story and this book, of this adventure, that is going to come to fruition through collaborative storytelling. You all are going to participate in that collaborative effort.
The storytelling part goes pretty hand in hand with the acting and setting up your character's backstory, but it's also a team effort with the DM. You as a player, it's your job to have, like I said, a backstory, but not only that, but have goals, right? What does your player want to accomplish? Who do you want to become? What do you want to become? And so that's something you can talk to your DM about with as well. Is say, sit them down and say, hey, this is what I want to do with my character. This is my goals. Like I want to, maybe your character suffered from a really tragic event in his life or traumatic, past that he has to try to overcome. Maybe your character's super cocky and needs to be humbled a little bit. Every single session you have becomes a part of your backstory, right? There's things you've been through. There's stuff that you've done, and you probably know how much depth you have with that character, how much stuff you've been through, what the things you've seen, right? And all that plays into all of your storytelling aspects as well.
We really hope that this has helped you understand these 7 areas and figure out where you land and what your strengths and weaknesses are in this, and strive to insert yourself into those areas a little bit more.
Yeah. Like we said, page 6, DMG, it's not in your, player's handbook, but we still think it applies to players all the more, even though it's geared towards DMs. Go ahead, read through them, figure out who you are, and then let your DM know so that they can gear their campaigns and their adventures towards the things that you enjoy, the things that you like. And that way it's an enjoyable experience for them because you're having fun, so they know that they're doing the right thing, and it's enjoyable for you because you're doing cool stuff and you enjoy it as much as they do. That's our 2 cents on knowing yourself as a player and expanding and growing into being a better player for your DMs. So until we do another video, or until next time, that is us for Bard and Barrel, and we will catch you guys next time.